Tom.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to Talk More Talk, a Solo Beatles video cast where we talk about all things from the solo years as well as from the Beatles years as well. And we are just so delighted to see you tonight, as well as, of course, every other Monday here. I am, and I think we all are pretty excited about tonight's topic. We love doing another listen. This is one of my personal favorites. Occasional series we do where we take another listen to an album that has been, critically and commercially has received mixed reaction, shall we say, upon its initial release. And so we'll take another look at it to talk about, did it deserve that initial reaction? And we, as always, are really interested to hear what you think. And so tonight's another listen is Somewhere in England by George Harrison, as Tom is holding up and as Joe is holding up both versions of the cover. See, we cover it all here.
You got the album too.
Yeah. Right. And we've got the LP, CD and LP. And
yes,
so
LP, that's correct, that album.
Yes, indeed. There you go. And so we are so looking forward to talking about this tonight. I think there's a lot to say. So we've got that, and we've got news to get to. It's a full night. So before we get to all that, as always, I would like to introduce ourselves. My name is Kit O'Toole. I am the author of Songs We're Singing, Guided Tours to the Beatles' lesser-known tracks, Michael Jackson FAQ, All That's Left to Know About the King of Pop. And I am the co-editor, along with our good buddy Ken Womack of Fandom and the Beatles, the act you've known for all these years. And now let me introduce my good friends that I always look forward to spending every other Monday with. He is the co-host of the very popular video cast / podcast Two Legs, a Paul McCartney-centric show where they cover everything you'd ever want to know about his solo years, and you never know what guest will turn up on that show. You just never know. So show your love for Tom Hunyadi. Hey, Tom, how's it going?
It's going great, Queen. How are you? Joe, Ken, and every time you moderate, I'm always expecting you to say I am the queen of everything, as well as just like we do when we introduce you. But you're humble and you're awesome. But you are the queen of everything. So as always, we bow to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. All right. And next, he is the host of the equally popular YouTube channel, Mean Mr. Mayo. You know him from his many videos he has done on, of course, the Beatles and collecting vinyl memorabilia. You name it, he does great comedy as well. He has done videos on his local record store. I always love those, and much, much more. So say hello to Joe Mayo. Hello, Joe.
Hello. Thank you, Sun Queen. I appreciate that. Hello, everybody. Hello, Tom. Hello, Ken.
Oh,
hey, Joe.
All right. And last but definitely not least, he is, basically doesn't need an introduction, but I'm going to do it anyway. He is the host of the longtime syndicated radio show Every Little Thing, where he plays just that, every little thing. Mm-hmm. From the Beatles and solo years, organized around really clever themes. He is also the co-host of the podcast Things We Said Today, along with Darren DeVivo and Alan Kozin. Great show indeed. And last but also definitely not least, if those weren't enough, he also hosts a show on his YouTube channel, Ken Michaels Radio. He interviews everybody from authors to podcasters to videocasters, musicians. To Wings members. One of us may show up on that once in a while. You just never know who will turn up. So say hello to the legend himself, Ken Michaels. Hello, Ken.
Thank you. You're too kind, Kit. I love the background like I always do. Are you in George's garden?
Actually, this is my backyard.
Wow.
That's everybody says my backyard looks like Friar Park, so I'm
Uh,
like, okay, I'll just throw my own backyard out there. That's not how it looks right now. This is how it looks in the summer.
oh,
And
okay.
like George, you do a lot of the landscaping yourself, right?
Oh, totally.
We'll have to go over and visit with a ukulele and just sit
Yeah,
around.
right.
Yeah,
Most
we'll
of
sit
them-
around and play ukulele.
Put some
and
gnome costumes on.
Yes.
exactly. It'll be
Yeah.
awesome. We'll do a live broadcast.
There you go.
It'll be great.
We'll
All right.
recreate the Cracker Box Palace video.
Oh, that'd be fun. Oh, we should do
Joe
that.
Joe will pop out of the baby pram. I can picture that.
That's a good one.
Totally. Let's do it.
Only if you're pushing it, Ken.
Well, hi to everyone. And by the way, tomorrow is my 40th anniversary since I did my first Beatles program ever on college radio, what became Every Little Thing. So I'm in celebratory mood right now.
Oh, congratulations. Wow,
Congrats.
Thank
40
you.
years.
Yeah.
That is quite a career. That is quite an accomplishment. So congratulations.
Yes.
Oh,
Wow.
thank you. Thank
My
you.
goodness. All right. Well, again, welcome everybody. And well, before we get to our main topic, our another listen selection, as always, Ken has got all the news that's fit to print. So what have you got for us?
Well, there's not much to print this week. This is actually going to be, this is the shortest newscast you'll ever hear from me, probably.
Wow.
We'll start with the Daily Mail reporting that Paul McCartney is being considered for a peerage to mark his 80th birthday this summer. He could actually be made a lord in recognition of his lifetime of musical achievements and service to British culture. It was 25 years ago when Paul was first knighted by the Queen. On my other podcast show, Things We Said Today, Alan Kozin, one of my other co-hosts, was questioning whether this honor can be passed on to family members. And actually, one of our listeners from the UK, Anthony Green, said that there are 92 members sitting in the House of Lords, and new hereditaries are almost never created. And if Paul was to be chosen, it is almost certain it would be a life peerage, which would end at the time of his death and can't be passed over to his oldest heir. But if he does accept the lordship, he could spend some time working on issues that matter to him, like animal rights, for example, instead of it being purely an honorary peerage. So a lot could be happening for Paul around the time of his 80th birthday. He's got the Glastonbury Festival. Of course, he's got the tour right before that.
So
speaking of which,
so after the lordship, then if he gets that, then I mean, and then being considered a god is the last thing, then, right? I mean,
he's already considered that.
He's already.
You and Andy take care of that.
Well, speaking of the tour, Paul has added another date for his Got Back tour. It's a second date at the Oakland Arena. Tickets actually went on sale to the general public for that one last Friday. Uncut Magazine has a tribute issue to Paul McCartney in celebration of his 80th birthday. And also back in January, Leo Sayer actually released an album of all Beatle covers. It's called Northern Songs. Leo Sayer Sings the Beatles. And this is to celebrate Leo's 50th anniversary in the music business. A big thanks to Scott O'Rourke, who does his weekly Beatles show Thursdays on WUSB. That's the University of Stony Brook on Long Island. A couple of reminders. We got the Grammy Awards coming up April the 3rd, with Paul being nominated twice and George also being nominated for the big box set for All Things Must Pass. We also have the Fest for Beatle fans happening the first weekend of April, April 1st, 2nd, and 3rd at the Hyatt Regency on the Hudson. I haven't mentioned some of the special guests who will be there, but we will have Billy J. Kramer, Chris O'Dell, Greg Bissonette. Who else? Someone named Peter Jackson, who on Sunday, there's actually going to be a Zoom connection in the Grand Ballroom. And I will be there with Darren DeVivo. And as you know, we had a an
Yes.
epic 4-hour interview
Epic
with
is
Peter
right.
Jackson on things we said today. And also Ken Dashow and Tom Frangione. The four of us will be asking Peter questions, and then we'll be taking questions from the audience. So I'm not sure what time, but it is Sunday afternoon, it looks like. And did I
Will that be 3 hours as well?
No. Mark Lewison. Did I say Mark Lewison's going to
No,
be?
not yet.
No,
Not yet.
but he
Yeah.
is.
Well, I believe he's going to be following Peter Jackson.
Mm.
Wow.
Now there is a tall order, but
That's a
only Mark.
hard act to follow.
Yeah, but Mark is.
He
Mark
can do it.
Lewison.
He's able.
Yes.
He is very able.
So
Well,
yeah,
if he had
and-
Tune In Part 2 ready, then he could follow Peter Jackson. That's
And
the only
listen,
way I could-
everybody that's going, do not ask him about part
No,
two.
I know.
No,
Don't.
don't.
I would
It's
never ask him
coming
It's coming
But-
when he's ready.
when he's ready.
the best things in life you have to wait the longest for.
That's
that.
right.
Mark, 1964 is coming, the anniversary. That's the year you want to try to do it, 2024.
There you go.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Okay, listen to us. We're your advice.
That's right.
And Kit, you wanted to say something about the fest?
Yes, indeed. We are going to be there. Talk More Talk is doing a panel Saturday afternoon. I do not know the time yet. I think the schedule will be coming out next week. I sure hope it is.
Yeah.
But it's
Cutting it close.
yeah,
Getting closer.
because we'd like to know the time as well. But yes, it will be Saturday afternoon, and if all goes as planned, we are going to have Lawrence Juber as our special guest. We are so excited, and we will be recording the proceedings, and it will be an episode of our show. So if you can't be there, it will be up as a future show. But if you can be there, and we sure hope you can, why, you will be part of the episode. So you can be part of I mean, you usually are part of the show with your comments, but you can be there in person and be part of it. So we sure hope you can join us. Go to thefest.com. And it's as soon as they post it, just take the schedule, just take a look for us for Saturday afternoon. And Joe, did you want to say, because unfortunately Joe is not going to be able to be there on Saturday when we're going to be doing the panel. We're really bummed about it.
Yeah, I'm bummed about it because ever since I hooked up with you people, I was looking forward to joining you whenever possible, because I think about 3 years almost it'll be that I'm doing this now. I can't believe it.
Wow.
And then of course we know what happened in 2020. COVID came in, and then this is going to be the first fest, and I've been chomping at the bit. And I have tickets. They just arrived today, actually. My 2020 tickets. They're now renewed for now. Have arrived today in the mail. But what happened was, long story short, it's work obligations that I really can't get out of. And I mean, I had the hotel booked. I had for 3 days, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And yeah, so there's still a possibility, though. I'm working on possibly, maybe, and this is not definite at this point, trying to get there Sunday. Maybe if I can figure that out. So I'll keep you updated.
Yes,
folks.
Indeed. And I think it's safe to say that you'll be able to find us, whether Joe is coming on Sunday. I will have a table, an author table. I'll be selling my books. I think we'll all be on panels. So in addition to our own panel, you'll see us throughout the weekend. So so please come and say hi.
Yeah, there should be a things we said today panel. We haven't been told yet.
Okay.
So, yeah. And I believe Tom has a bit of news to pass along to us.
Yes, indeed.
With this the
Not fest.
No, this is okay. Well,
not fest related.
Well, it is going to be my first fest, that's for sure, and I'm really excited about it. But yeah, so you can probably put this in the rumor mill. there's been some talk. I think there was the podcast Nothing Is Real was talking about this the sometime in New York City box, and how there's a kind of little bit of a struggle between the Lennon camp and Universal about the release of this, concerning a particular song. Now, I've heard from inside sources that this set is going to get released, and that we're also going to get the 1-to-1 concert as well as the Live Peace Toronto concert as well, which I don't think has been remastered or remixed or anything since it's been originally released. Or anything like that. I don't know if it's got remastered, but anyways, it's supposed to be in that set as well. So again, let's just take this as a rumor. We still don't know an exact date yet, but I think the coming soon aspect of it was erased on the website as well. So obviously there's been some kind of attempt to beef up this package to make it more appealing, seeing that this is probably only the hard fans are going to buy this. I don't see some, the casual John Lennon fans getting this set, but hopefully there's going to be some extra goodies on the set to make it more appealing for everybody.
It'd be nice to have rehearsal.
Yeah.
Audio.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
So
yeah, there are a lot of rehearsal material for that's out there.
Right. And then the 1-to-1 show, that's been out of print for many years now, and it's something that's a lot of us fans have been dying to get our hands on, I should say. And you've also interviewed
Jack Douglas.
Jack Doug, yeah, thank you about it. And he had said that it was finished for the most part, right? When you interviewed him?
Yeah, he said that there was some kind of problem with the video, but he wouldn't elaborate on it. But
gotcha.
And there were 2 concerts for the 1-to-1. It'd be nice if we had both in this package.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
So
Tom says, Tom Brennan says Live Peace in Toronto was remixed in '95.
Excellent. Thank you, Tom.
I thought that didn't somewhere along the line, was Yoko, some of her sounds during John muted? I thought there was some of that was done. Somebody can check in on that. I think I remember hearing that. Maybe during Cold Turkey. I'm thinking
the CD for Live Peace in Toronto that came out was fantastic sounding. I mean, it's it blasts in your face. It's really loud, very clear. So they did a great job on it back then. So
cool. Yeah. But like I said, that's just a rumor mill at the moment.
Okay, that's all the news.
Yep.
All right. Thank you, Ken. Thank you, Tom. I'm sure we'll keep you posted on the details when we get them. So, all right, let's get to our main topic tonight, which is, as I mentioned at the top of the show, we're going to take another listen to Somewhere in England by George Harrison. Just a quick summary of the background of this album, because it's very interesting. This has an interesting story behind it, as I'm sure many of you know. So George started recording this album in 1980, and had a very different running track list for the album. Yeah, and but he presented it to the label, and unfortunately, I think he has the distinction of being the only Beatle that had his album rejected by the label. And we will get to that later as to whether that was fair or not. And he was asked to replace 4 songs on the album, which he did. One of them being swapped out for All Those Years Ago, and that song in itself has a long story to it. Ultimately, as we all know, becoming a tribute for John Lennon, who, of course, tragically passed as he was re-recording the song, and then it was rewritten then as the tribute. And he then asked Ray Cooper, George, the great percussionist, to come on and produce the new songs that he recorded, which were Teardrops, That Which I've Lost, and Blood from a Clone. I have more to say about Blood from a Clone later.
Interesting that one's okay.
yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I'm going to be talking about, and we're all going to be talking about later. And so the album comes out now, all those years ago. It comes out in 81. All those years ago does very well. That single. The album itself, I think, peaked at number 11 on the Billboard 200 and number 13 in the UK. But I think after that, slid down, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Ken, but what slid down the charts fairly, at least in the US, fairly quickly after that. I mean, it didn't really,
Yeah. And it was also the first album from him that, well, unless you count Electronic Sound, that didn't go gold at all.
Exactly.
So, yeah, very disappointing in terms of sales. But, his previous albums also made the top 20, and yet they went gold.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
They did fairly well. They stood on their own. But this one didn't stay on the charts that long.
I got to think the inclusion of All Those Years Ago, which was a hit, made number 2 in US. I don't remember what it did in England, but I think that accounted for people
13.
buying the album who did buy it, make it up, go to 11.
Right. Yeah. That was a huge help. Critically, it definitely received a mixed reaction. Rolling Stone at the time wrote, the most paradoxical of the ex-Beatles, George Harrison is an enigmatic mixture of exquisite craftsmanship and heavy-handed hack work, touching sincerity and plain disingenuousness. As it stands, somewhere in England is neither here nor there. Very, very clever. So, it has since, been a somewhat controversial album in terms of opinion in George's catalog. So, let's take another listen to it tonight. As I mentioned at the top of the show, everybody, please join in and share your thoughts. So, let's start out with our initial impressions of this record. Now, Joe and Ken, I always hate this. The Tom and I have to do this, saying,
No, I love it. At least we were around for those things.
I don't mean, because you were. I mean, we were on the face of the earth, but I mean, we were a little, young, too young when it first came out. So, when you first heard this album when it came out in 81, what were your initial impressions? Joe, let's start with you. What were your initial thoughts on listening to this album?
Well, at the time, there was a college radio station that I listened to that had a weekly Beatles show from Adelphi University. It was on from like 1980, I think, to 84. And I used to be one of the guys who called in. Well, it was a call-in show. They took phone calls, and I was known as the Beatlemaniac was a nickname that I used at the time. I was like 18, 19 years old. Anyway, and that was your source of news. They would say, like we're doing here, what's coming out, Paul's coming out with a new album called, with Tug of War, called Hug Faux Love. I think was one of I remember them saying Hug Faux Love.
Mm-hmm.
That was like one of the possible titles. But anyway, and then of course, as 81 came in, they talked about George's album. And that's how I would get my news. And they'd play the tracks there. And at the time, first impression, I wasn't really knocked out by the album too much. Then when I listened to it myself and bought it, I came to warm up to it, and I started to like it. I would say that the first time, it took a few spins to really enjoy. I think out of the 10 tracks, there are only 10 tracks on here.
Yeah.
Right?
Wow.
Yeah. Skippy.
Mm-hmm.
And I came to like 6 of them very much, and to this day it hasn't changed that much, which we'll get to. But the first impressions were that it was an okay album. I came to like over half of it, quite a bit, but I didn't think it was among George's best, even at the time, and That's what I thought. It was just another album from George, really.
Okay.
Kind of.
So yeah, so it didn't really.
Well,
set
all
you on
those years
fire.
ago, that was the as we said, that was the big hit, and I was glad that was on there. And I don't know how much you want to go into the songs individually because
We will in a minute. Yeah.
I was never a big fan of that song all those years ago, but I like that it existed. And it's still, it was something for John at the time. The first word really from the Beatles, ex-Beatles. Before Paul did his Here Today. So I was glad that it was there. That particular song, and that does give the album kind of a lift. There is a hit song on it. That did well.
Yeah, it was played a lot. I mean, I do remember
Yeah.
that.
What beat it out? Was it Betty Davis Eyes? I'm thinking what
Yep.
song
Yeah,
was like,
Betty Davis
the
Eyes
song.
held it off.
Yeah.
which I do love that song. I got to say I like it better than all those years ago. So it was, at least it's worth it.
Oh my goodness. All right, Ken.
Or the Eddie Murphy version on Saturday Night, Baby David died.
Oh, yeah.
I don't remember that.
Oh my goodness, Ken. What about you? What were your initial thoughts?
Not too different from Joe's, actually. By the way, I used to listen to that show that you were talking about there,
Yeah.
Joe. It's on WBAU.
WBAU call. Yep.
Most of my life until I got married, I lived on Long Island. So I was very addicted to that show on WBAU, Beyond the Beatles, it was called. And,
Yeah, right.
and it was very much ahead of its time. It was like a podcast back then because, they gave you all the latest news from all different sources, especially Beatle Monthly. So, yeah. I liked half of the album. The rest has taken a while to grow on me. But the songs that I really liked, I liked a lot. But it just seemed like another George album. It wasn't nearly as strong as, say, 33 and a Third and George Harrison. And later on, you'll learn about the whole history and what it could have been.
Right.
But yeah, the songs that I really like a lot. Obviously, I devoured all those years ago. I thought it was a tremendous tribute to John. And there are certain songs on there that I think are absolutely outstanding. And I've always said there's no such thing as a bad solo Beatle album. Solo Beatle albums go from good to great. But every artist has their strongest albums and their weakest albums. And this one has never really fully caught on to me. There are a few songs on there that I still struggle with a little bit, but there's enough really good material on there to make it worth your while. So, I was mixed about the album. Not bad, not great, somewhere in the middle.
Okay. All right. So yep. So similar to Joe.
Very similar. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Now, of course, Tom and I are the Gen Xers in this group, and we came to it a little later. Although, as I mentioned, I do remember hearing all those years ago on the radio all the time, and I loved it. I mean, I loved it, and I didn't fully appreciate at the time, the meaning of it and everything. And
there was a video for it.
Yes. Yep.
Yep.
I think I do remember seeing that. I don't know if I remember it at the time, but I saw it later. So Tom and I came to the album later. And so, Tom, how did you come upon it?
I got this album from, actually my aunt gave me this album when I started, getting into the Beatles and solo stuff. So right around the time of Cloud 9 came out, to my aunt, she had it and she knew I was a fan, so she gave me the album. So I got to hear this album in the 80s, just a few years later. I thought it started strong. I thought this album has a great 1-2 punch with the first two tracks, but then it kind of just slowly for me starts to dwindle a little bit in value. But I didn't hate it, but again, I didn't find it anywhere near as exciting as Cloud 9 or the Traveling Wilburys stuff or the other stuff that I was getting in Best of Dark Horse as well. But again, it was just, I played it a few times and then I didn't listen to it again until I got the CD. And then, then I played it a couple more times and then, and then I didn't listen to it again until 2004 when the new CDs came out, So it's just it's for me, it's like one of those back burner CDs where you have it, but it's not always going to be the first choice that you play. It's not going to be the first CD you're going to grab when you're in a George Harrison mood. Now that doesn't mean I think it's terrible, but it's got its moments for sure. I think some of George's playing on here is fantastic. And I'll tell you what, if you're a bass player, you should listen to this album because, Willie Weeks and Herbie Flowers does some really good bass playing on this record. So again, and all those years ago, enough has already been said about that song. I love it. I remember seeing the video early in the early MTV days as well. So, but yeah, it's an okay record in my opinion.
Yeah, very good point about the bass. And really, he had some top studio musicians,
right? Always has.
Boy, he always did.
He always has.
Yep, and boy, does it show on this album.
And Tom, you were saying that it's not the first one you'd grab, with George Harrison. Not for me either. But it's funny. Just recently, in the past, 6 months somewhere, I just said, I feel like hearing that, and which I hadn't heard in quite a while. I put it in my car back when I still had a CD player in my car,
right?
And I was listening to it, and I said, "This is good."
Right.
I mean,
right.
I definitely, even though we're not to that point yet talking about it, I definitely like it better now than I did then, and I think it's becoming an underrated album to me a little bit.
Yeah. And it's funny too.
That doesn't mean great either.
Right.
Just means not as worthless as some people might think or.
And it's funny too, because, I'm from Michigan, so I'm a diehard Detroit Tiger fan. So getting the album and seeing one of the titles of the song is Baltimore Oriole, I was like, oh no. So that song already had a strike against it.
Love that song. I always praise that song. I love it.
Yeah. So because I hated the Baltimore Orioles, but
I probably heard the album at about the same time you did, Tom. It was, as I was really getting into the solo stuff and I really did not have a positive first impression of the album. Other than all those years ago, really Blood from a Clone.
Mm-hmm.
To start the album with that, and we'll get to that in a minute. That song really turned me off. I just thought, wow. Now I've come to appreciate what I call pissed off George. But, but back then I was like, this is the same guy, My Sweet Lord. What is this? And, and it just had this, nastiness to it. Now I understand the whole story, but back then I was just starting to get into it. And I didn't like some of the synthesizers in it. I thought it was a little dated.
Heavy for sure.
Yeah, and so like that.
Let's go.
But we'll get to it. So that kind of got the album off on a bad note, literally, for me. And it was just very inconsistent for me. But there were some tracks that I liked immediately, which we'll get to. But for me, it was not a favorite, not one that I put on, played regularly. But over the years, I've come to appreciate it more. And when you know the backstory,
right,
it does make a bit of a difference. So we'll, why don't we get to the songs themselves? So why don't we start with the songs? And again, all of you watching out there, please join in. What are some of the songs that you have grown to like? Songs that either you liked instantly or ones that have grown on you over the years. So, Tom, why don't we start with you this time? What are some of the songs that you've grown to like?
Thank you. I've always enjoyed the first two. I think there was a great 1-2 punch with Blood from a Clone and Unconsciousness Rules. Being their head on a brick wall is just so memorable. I just love that line from Blood from a Clone, and I'm glad that that's a part of the album. As we know, he replaced 4 songs from the original track list, and that was one of them. Life Itself has really grown on me, and I that's definitely for me one of his better higher power songs, if you want to call him that. but it's got some great guitar work there on George, and he must really like this song too, because it's on the Best of Dark Horse, even though it wasn't a single. So he must have really liked that as well. And I think Teardrops is again another track that's grown on me over years, and I think there's some, even though it's synth heavy, I do enjoy the synths on that track. Now, the rest of the album, I can't say that I'm very fond of. Hong Kong Blues is just okay. That Which I Have Lost, I think was decent. I did like the chorus a lot on that one, and there's some good guitar work on there. But Save the World, it's relevant today with the Russian comments in there.
Yeah.
But other than that, I feel like it's Paul's, despite repeated warnings, in a way. It feels kind of forced to me. I feel like the music and the lyrics don't really work together. So that's just unfortunate, one that hasn't grown on me. And it's just one that I haven't really liked much. I mean, there's the demo version on the 2004 CD. That's okay, but again, it just doesn't really do anything for me, unfortunately.
Okay, all right. So your favorites are Life Itself,
the first
Blood
two,
from a Clone,
Unconsciousness Rules, and then obviously All Those Years Ago and Teardrops. Those would be my favorite tracks on there.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Ken, let's jump to you. What are some of your highlights?
Well, probably my favorite is Baltimore Oriole. I love the whole arrangement of that song. I love the guitar work that's on it, and Tom Scott. My God, the saxophone, that really accentuates, the song there, and the arrangement. George is such a great arranger of older songs, and he doesn't get that much credit for doing that. And I think it really worked on this particular song. And I also like George's vocal delivery in the way that he presents the songs the way that he does. It's not like the original recordings where it's his own unique arrangement. And I love Baltimore Oriole for that reason. Obviously, All Those Years Ago, I do love Blood from a Clone a lot. One song that has really grown on me, more so than probably any other on this album, is Writings on the Wall. It's one of those really slow songs that pack a lot of punch in what he's saying. It's another one of those songs where he's, spiritual, and he's got this air of being prophetic, in his lyrics. And when he says things like, strange, we hang on to things that have no grace or power, while death holds on to us much more with every passing hour, and there's also a reference of being shot away, which makes you think of John at that moment, since it came out right after John's murder. It's such a slow but pretty song, and it's sometimes I remember George saying that when a song is slower, it's more powerful. And sometimes I think it drives the message so much more when a song is slower, kind of like Be Here Now was for me. I like Unconsciousness Rules a lot. It's a good party number. Life Itself is really nice, although it's a little bit too repetitious for me. I've always liked Teardrops, but kind of like what you said, Tom, about Save the World. It almost sounds forced. It's like George is trying to have a very commercial pop record. I still like it. And I do have a problem with Save the World a lot. It's such a dreary song. I know that it's the message in the song that matters, what he's trying to say there. But I don't know. It does sound forced to me.
It's funny because it's like, what is the song trying to be? Is it trying to be an upbeat song? Is it trying to be, what I mean? Because whenever you're trying to make a statement, I guess it may be in a song, sometimes it's hard to put music to that in a way. Sometimes, like I said, the music and the lyrics don't always just gel together. I kind of feel the same way with Despite Repeated Warnings as well. I just don't think that music fits the lyrics either. So, but that's just me.
I think parts of that song do, Despite Repeated Warnings. That Which I Have Lost is a song that I like a lot more now than I ever have. But what I like most, I love his guitar playing in it.
Mm.
The slide guitar work is pretty wicked, what he's playing in that song. So there's a lot of reasons to like it. But there's a few songs that I just have a problem with. But yet the ones that I like a lot, make it all the more worthwhile. So, and one other thing that I wanted to bounce off you guys from what you were saying before is that sometimes you kind of feel like listening to an album that you don't know as well as the others, just to become more acquainted with it. Sometimes you're not always listening to an album that you're just in the mood for. But if it's an album you haven't heard for a long time and you're thinking, oh, I don't remember some of the songs on there. Although with me, I remember them all because I'm always playing them on my radio show. But yeah, I think Somewhere in England is an album that's like that you should go back to every now and then, because there is a lot of good stuff on there. There is on every solo album.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
But a lot, but just to build on that a little bit, I just always felt like, this album, and maybe even Gone Troppo a little bit, you feel like you're missing out on his guitar playing on a lot of it. I mean, whether there's kind of synth heavy on a few songs or just being more like the Hoagie Carmichael stuff where it's kind of more traditional in a way. So I always feel like this period is kind of just like not as guitar heavy, or he's not really deserving of that number 11 status on the Rolling Stone Rolling Stones top guitarist of all time list. And a lot of it sounds the same. It sounds repetitive. I mean, just the way he's playing now, obviously it's great, but a lot of it sounds the same.
Well, Joe, what do you? Oh,
I'm sorry. You have thought, Ken?
No, I mean, when we did our last show about Paul McCartney, is he better self-produced or when he has other producers? I was saying that there are people out there that admire artists who don't change all that much,
right?
Who still put out the same kind of music that are true to their roots and what made them popular in the first place. And I'm sure there are a lot of people watching this show right now who admire George for not cashing in on trends. He didn't put out a disco song. He used a little bit of synthesis. Nothing wrong with disco, like we always say. But he did use a little bit of synthesizers, but so what? That never bothered me at all. But he put out music that was meaningful to him first. And he was not striving to have a Fleetwood Mac Rumors.
Right.
He had enough success with the Beatles in the early part of his solo career where I think it satisfied his ego enough. And I think he was happy when his albums did moderately well and was received fairly well. Didn't have to be a blockbuster album, didn't have to be a thriller, So I think that with George, the music mattered more than trying to, I said, trying to sound modern.
Yeah.
Or appeal to the masses.
Yeah.
It did change somewhat with Cloud9, although I think a lot of that had to do with Jeff Lynne.
Right.
But then there are other people that admire that when you stretch a little bit and you do try to sound modern, or you work with different people, and you try to sound fresh. So there's different ways of looking at it.
Yeah, that's true.
True.
Joe, what were some of the highlights for you?
Well, I agree with a lot of these things that have been said. When I said I like 6 songs a lot, they happen to be the first 6. So,
wow.
Blood from a Clone. You love that song. I love the way he just socks it to the record companies. And I was saying earlier, I think it's kind of ironic. I mean, what is this? They don't like the sound of the album. They think it's too laid back, right? And all that kind of stuff. And then this somehow gets on the album, and it was passed. Unless it's that they didn't really pay attention to the lyrics, much, and they didn't read the lyric sheet. And sometimes it's hard to hear the lyrics or understand the lyrics. George tends to try to fit a lot of lyrics fast into
wording.
And there's some great lyrics. And we know what they are. Not new wave. They don't play that crap.
Yeah.
I beg to differ. I like new wave, George. But anyway, Frank, that kind of stuff, and nothing like Frank Zappa and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I really love that he just goes right in for the kill with that song opening up the album. And then Unconsciousness Rules, that's pretty popular amongst us. I enjoy that. It's a good second song. It's upbeat and It's a fun song. Life Itself, I really liked even back in the day when I first heard it. It's it's a spiritual song, and he's basically talking about as I think Tom was alluding to, someone higher, a higher maybe God or so many
Well, he
different
names all of
names.
them. Yeah,
Yeah.
Buddha,
He named
God,
all the different
Jehovah. Yeah.
names.
Right.
I just think it's a pretty song. I like the sound of it. All those years ago, as I say, it's always been a little awkward for me, that song. I don't know why. Uh, I like it more for the fact of what it's saying more than the actual tune, But I'm glad, you had the people involved. And, Ringo was involved, of course, and Paul and Linda and all this. So that was nice. Baltimore Oriole, I can't wait to get to. I'll just say ditto a lot for what Ken said about it. Hoagie Carmichael
Mm.
cover. I don't think I ever heard of Hoagie Carmichael or anybody else doing it. I don't think.
Mm.
But I love the saxophone. I love the arrangement, as you say. The vocal. You mentioned the vocal. I was gonna
Yeah.
save that. Use that one if you save the vocals. I was gonna bring that up.
I
I
think
I,
they
I
said
don't know
that
what
it
it is.
started off as an instrument. Sorry, Joe. I think they said it started off originally as an instrumental, and then the lyrics were added later on.
I
If
mean,
I
he
The
takes
remember.
original
us up.
song.
Yeah.
Oh,
He goes up. He goes down. Uh, I just love the way that he sings it. Send her back home. Hello. He's
yeah.
like all over the. I love
Yeah.
that stuff. And the guitar work. It could be my favorite song on the album these days.
Oh.
Uh, uh, you know, Teardrops. That should have been a hit. I would think. I still
Yeah.
can't believe that
102.
wasn't
Yep.
a hit song. That's
Almost.
and then we go to the other four. I'm not wild about. What's interesting is that which I have lost is the lesser of the evils. Dare, dare I call it that? I like that one the most out of the last four. But what's interesting is they do go for me steadily down. Like that which I have lost may be like the one that I would appreciate more.
Mm.
And I just don't care for writings on the wall, not just because it's slower, because I like slow songs. And Ken, you mentioned "Be Here Now." I mean, could you get
Mm.
any more slow? How powerful that song is! I
Right.
really, I really love that song. It has nothing to do, but this song just never appealed to me, and it still doesn't. But I'm gonna keep playing the whole album. I'll stop it at "Save the World." I hate that song. I'll come right out and say it. I think it's one of George's worst songs in his catalog. It's a mess. It's all over the place. It's a mess. You don't know what he's trying to accomplish. Uh, is it supposed to be funny? Is it supposed to be fast or choppy? Hong Kong Blues, the other Hoagie Carmichael song, just that, Buddha's Gong, kick, kicking Buddha's Gong, and all the other lyrics. It's
Mm.
just maybe because I just don't care for the melody or tune if there is one. It's kind of just erratic, and it's not for me. But hey, I love at least six songs on here. So like I
Yeah.
said earlier, and I want to mention this. We try not to compare albums, but I'm thinking as I talk about this, I like it way more than Don Troppo, way more. You know,
Okay.
so
All
Not
right.
me, but
Yeah. All right. Well, as
Yeah.
as for yep, yeah, as for me, um, definite highlights for me are Life Itself. I think that's absolutely, until I think it's maybe you can't say this anymore, but I think it was a buried gem for many years. I just think it is gorgeous, one of his great spiritual songs, just so sincere. I
Mm.
think his vocals on it, all those years ago, we've talked about quite a bit. That which I have lost has really grown on me over time. It's got a nice country twang, kind of like the guitar work on it. I think Ray Cooper really shows his stuff as a producer here as well. I like the crispness of the recording on it. Love it, and well, I said love the guitar work on it. That's a real highlight for me. Totally agree with you, Ken. Writings on the Wall. I really like that song.
All right.
I love the subtle Indian accents to it. I mean, they're kind of woven in as the song goes on. And again, it's spiritual, but he's kind of issuing a warning. And he's done that in other songs as well. And kind of saying, don't put too much faith in material things, and take a good hard look at your life. I just I've really grown to like that song over time. But as I said, I just love the arrangement of it, and just that those touches of the the tabla. Just really beautiful. I love that. Did not like Blood from a Clone when I first heard it, but over time, and now that I know the reasoning behind it, I like the lyrics. I mean, they're just so nasty. As I said, Pissed Off George can be a lot of fun, and he really, and as you said, Joe, not only did the record companies say, "Oh, this one's okay," but let him lead the whole album with this song. I mean, that is like the ultimate middle finger to his record company. I mean, that's incredible. I mean, did they not understand what this song was about? I mean, that's just astounding to me. But it's great. It's a fun. Now I understand. What it means, and it's a fun song. I am so glad you guys said what you did about Save the World. I have never liked this song. I've never understood it. And like you said, Joe, there were times where I thought, like, is he trying to parody? Sometimes was he trying to parody kind of a Save the World anthem? Was he serious? I mean, he just goes all over the place. With
even if he's
song.
parodying it, it's just I don't find it funny either way.
Yeah, exactly. You just don't know what he's doing. Now the demo that's on, the reissue. Love his guitar on there. I love the chord changes because those get kind of buried in the kind of overranging and everything that's in the final recording. And it's like, this could have been a better song.
Right.
It had some potential, but you just don't know where he was going with this. So I'm so glad, because every time I've heard this, I've just thought, am I missing something? I mean, Hoagie Carmichael, the two Hoagie Carmichael songs, I love Hoagie Carmichael. I mean, he's absolutely right. I mean, The Nearness of You and Stardust are two of the most beautiful songs ever written. I mean, just gorgeous. I don't love his versions of these two. If you can look up the originals that he did on YouTube. They're fascinating to listen to, particularly Baltimore Oriole. It sounds so different the way he did it.
I don't want it to be different.
But
No, it's in a good way. It's in a good way
No,
because
that's
you
what
can
I'm afraid
really
of.
hear the lyrics.
That's what I'm afraid of.
No, I mean, it's really good though. You really hear the lyrics. I'm not insane about his versions. They're just, I know I keep saying overrange, but these two really, to me, are. But I really, the playing on this album, the musicians, as we've talked about Willie Weeks, and oh God, I'm blanking on the other bass player. Okay, wait a minute. Let me get Tom back. I was just about to ask Tom the name of the other bass player, and he vanished on me.
Herbie Flowers.
Herbie Flowers, thank you.
Yeah.
And so many of the other great, thank you, and so many of the other great musicians on here. I mean, these are top people in their field. Hey, he's back. They're all incredible players, so I'm not faulting them at all. It's just some of the songs, as you said, Ken, there are just some songs you can't get next to, and there are just a few of them like that for me on there.
I'm glad that Joe said what he did about the lyrics, because there are times when I felt that George crams too many words or too many syllables, and it just doesn't flow that well.
I agree.
Certainly, big words like in That Which I Have Lost.
Living in the Material World, even though I like that song, I mean, the material doesn't really fit. living, in the material. Well, wait a minute.
Well, it kind of flows there, but
When he
Mhm.
sings
there are
it,
times when I think he tries to stick too much in,
Good point.
yeah, he
in the
does that,
melody, and it just doesn't work as well. Even in all those years ago, someone, the devil's best friend,
Yeah,
tried,
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
it's like,
Yeah. So when the
it's like-
devil's a friend, yeah.
Wow.
it's like, I love the message, of
Mhm.
what he's saying in the song, but sometimes it's a little too wordy or too many syllables.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And something Tom said, before I forget, I think it was Tom. He was talking about the guitar, playing George, and all the slide and that twangy sound. It's nice, but he really it becomes samey, very, almost all the time. After a while, it's almost like every song sounds like that sameness of the twangy guitar.
Mhm.
Too often to me, I think, in his solo career around this time. I mean,
Yeah.
I would say, it's weird, and he never really did that stuff in the Beatles, right? That all came after the Beatles. Really, that sound. I don't remember hearing a lot of that
Right towards
if any.
the
Well, towards the
Lane
end,
Bonnie years, I think.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think and I think that's why I'm sorry, guys. Like one of the songs, and I forgot to mention it was Unconsciousness Rules. That was one song I actually didn't like because to me it was kind of like that for me, like that same kind of guitar. It just didn't really go anywhere for me. So that was one of the songs that I did think sounded a little same-ish. So I kind of see your point there, but
I don't know, Kit. You've got that look in your eyes that says you're half alive and you're lost
Right.
inside.
Hmm.
Got the lyrics, and I'm looking at you. You got yourself in a bind, Kit. You don't know how to unwind.
yeah,
He
well,
may
the
have
writing's
never
on
done
the
a
wall,
disco.
brother.
He may have never done a disco song, but he's done a song about going to a disco.
Yeah. I was thinking of that lyric before we saying George, isn't going to do disco. I was
Oh,
trying to fit that in there.
oh,
before.
that's great. Let's talk about the 4 songs that the record company made him. Okay, Tom's excited. Made him remove, and we'll talk about those 4. And then toward the end, I've made a slide. I decided to get a little fancy so we could see version 1 and version 2, the track listings next to each other.
Hmm.
And then we can talk, and we'll throw it out to the audience to say, okay, which one is better, or neither of them? Which one do you think, would you have taken off some tracks, put on others? It just kind of throw this out for discussion. But let's talk about the 4 songs that were taken off first. So that would be Flying Hour, Lay His Head, Tears of the World, and Sat Singing. Let's see. Let's start with Joe. What among those 4? Which ones do you like?
Okay, I'll start by saying, for the longest time, I was, unhappily unfamiliar with them because I never played them much, to be honest with you. And when I did, I thought I had remembered that they weren't much. And then in preparation for this show, I played "Sat Singing" and "Lay His Head." I thought they were both good. I said these, I hadn't heard them in a long time, and I said, "Sat Singing is pleasant." It's got George's trademark slide guitar, of course, but reminded me in places of. I was thinking "A Beautiful Girl" when I was hearing it. It was the kind of oohs that he says. But that would have fit on the album. Well, I think that would have boosted the album if you put that on and aced something else, like maybe "Save the World," go without the message, but have a nice song that. And I'm thinking that was on the commercial side. That's one of the songs that Warner didn't want, and was saying that it's not, commercial enough. I think one of the things they were saying.
Yes,
I thought
that's the main reason.
yeah, "Lay His Head" also. It's got a nice pace, kind of loose. That made it as the B side, right? Of "Got My Mind
Got
Set
My
on
Mind
You."
Set on You. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Remix though. It
Yeah,
was remixed
remixed.
for that
You
with Jeff
remixed,
Lynne.
okay. And those two, I like those, and thought both of those songs were like commercial enough. I don't know. The stuff that George put on some of the other tracks that are on the album. I forget which order they're in, if they were there originally or he put them on later. I know "Blood from a Clone" was one of the
Mhm.
substitutes,
Yep.
but as it exists, I don't know. I think those two songs at least are better than a couple of the songs that, for me, that I would have, if they felt that it was too laid back. Writings on the Walls is laid back, and how much you enjoy it. But I mean, from their perspective, the executives, the suits. I mean, well, those two weren't. I mean, really. And I got to be honest with you, still not familiar enough for the show for Tears of the World, or no, I heard Tears of the World. I'm sorry, Flying Hour. That's what I was thinking.
Hmm.
Tears of the World. It's more. It was all right. I think that could have made the album too. I'd pick those three over some of the songs on the album. Like I said, that I didn't care for personally. And Flying Hour, I'm not familiar with.
Okay.
I have to be honest. Should be. I should have got it prepared, but
Well,
I didn't.
oh, sorry.
Hmm.
Next
Oh,
time.
next time. All right, Ken, how about you?
Well, I have very definite opinions about some of these songs, and
All right.
certainly Flying Hour to me, the people at Warner Brothers were out of their minds for not
Yep.
putting that song on
I
there on
agree.
that album.
Yep.
I
That's the
agree.
one. That's
Um,
the one I missed, right?
Flying Hour is the most commercially accessible song outside of all those years ago, which was a new song that was added for the album. But if Flying Hour was on the album, I would have definitely made it the second single.
Yep.
Being realistic, the music that was coming out late 70s, early 80s was changing, and George's sound wasn't as popular as it once was, but he still managed to have top 20 singles with Crackerbox Palace and Blow Away. And with all those years ago hitting number two, I could see Flying Hour at least making the top 40, whereas I couldn't really see even Teardrops doing that well. But Flying Hour is just so damn catchy. I mean, a couple
Yep.
of listens and you know how it goes.
Yep.
And I think that was one of the biggest mistakes when it comes to this album. I love Leia's Head to death. I've always loved it. It's very all these songs are laid back. These four songs really,
Yeah.
they would have fit the album. I probably would have preferred definitely putting Flying Hour and Leia's Head on the album and not having Save the World and maybe Hong Kong Blues on there. That would have really strengthened it. But Sad Singing and Tears of the World are pretty much the same. It's very much his style, very mid-tempo, same slide guitar work. But I love it. I love his melodies. I love his lyrics, but it's typical of what George was doing then. They're good. I wouldn't say they're great, but Flying Hour is definitely a great song. And to me, Leia's Head is as well. But I don't understand why Warner Brothers would reject any of those four songs, to tell you the truth. But then again, if you're going to add all those years ago, that's a bonus. If you're going to add Blood from a Clone, I would definitely have that on the album.
Right.
So, it's apples and oranges, really. But Flying Hour was a missed opportunity as far as I'm concerned.
See, Ken, this is why I like you so much, because this is you're absolutely right. When I heard Flying Hour, I just couldn't believe, what were they thinking? I mean, it's a great song. I mean, it's catchy. I mean, it's even, not to sound shallow, but I mean, it's even sort of danceable. I mean, it could have been a single. It's got a great message.
Right.
Great lyrics of, the past is gone. We don't know what the future will bring. We only have the present. I mean, it's, so terrific lyrics, great vocals from him. I mean, I don't know why they would turn that down. I also like Leia's Head. That one was a little bit of a grower for me. I didn't love it immediately, but as you listen to it, it really does. I mean, for me, it really started growing on me. And the other two, kind of the same for me. I mean, they were very much, typical that time for him and theme, and they're nice. I don't know, if I feel that strongly that they should have been on that album. I mean, it would have been fine, but Leia's Head and
Flying
the
Hour.
other, I mean, Flying Hour. I mean, absolutely, those should have been on. I mean, no doubt about it. So
I don't know how you won't have that song in your head after listening to it a few times.
Well, I feel terrible. I mean, that's the one I should. That's the main one.
You've got to listen to it.
I mean, I don't understand that. I keep getting back to the executives. Did they hear the finished album, or it was changed? Right. It was changed, and they said, "Okay, that's good enough." I mean, without even hearing it.
What were they thinking?
They got the Hong Kong Blues. Not only do I not like it,
that was supposed to be the opener.
It's another Hoagie Carmichael. They already have one.
Well, and that's why I thought they could have dropped one of those. And I mean, no
but not
question.
Baltimore Oriole.
Yeah. All right.
You take off Hong Kong Blues and save the world at least.
Drop those two. Absolutely. So, Tom, how about you?
Well, that's the confusing thing about this is, this album getting rejected and then saying it's too laid back, take 4 songs off. But from my research, there wasn't nothing saying what specific 4 songs they wanted to taken off. I think they left it up to George to decide,
one source I read said that George himself dropped the 4 songs.
Right. And I would imagine they probably wanted the Carmichael stuff off because of just being, the older stuff, and they probably wanted all, original George Harrison material. But again, Ken, I got to agree with you. I mean, Flying Hour by far is just the best of the batch, and really disappointing that this wasn't left on the album. Leia's Head again, I think those two are the best of the batch. Sat Singing and Tears of the World. I don't think they would have help the album any more than where it went on the charts. But yeah, I mean, those 2 tracks. Oh yeah, again, I probably would have taken off Hong Kong Blues and Save the World myself as well, and because I think Flying Hour would have fit perfectly on the B side and kind of breaking up the some of the slowness maybe or the laid backness on the second half, and maybe just because it's a little bit more up tempo. I don't think it's as laid back as the rest of the those tracks were, but I think that would have fit nicely on side 2 myself. But yeah, I mean, I haven't seen anything anywhere where they said take these 4 songs off and come back with four new ones.
Well, I think I read that they thought they didn't hear a single. That the label didn't hear a single. They didn't think it was commercial enough.
Right.
And I thought I did read that they flagged, but maybe I'm wrong, that they flagged the 4 tracks as problematic. Well, let me bring up my snazzy, or maybe not so snazzy, but slide, and I'll show the 2
versions.
Here we go. Okay, here are the 2 versions. So this is to the left here, version 1. This was the original album that George submitted to the label. And so I'll read this aloud for those of you who are listening to the audio version. So we had on side 1, Hong Kong Blues, Writings on the Wall, Flying Hour, Leia's Head, and Unconsciousness Rules. Side 2 was Sat Singing, Life Itself, Tears of the World, Baltimore Oriole, and Save the World. So that was the original lineup. And then, of course, the final version that came out, side 1, Blood from a Clone, Unconsciousness Rules, Life Itself, all those years ago, Baltimore Oriole. Side 2, Teardrops, That Which I Have Lost, Writings on the Wall, Hong Kong Blues, Save the World. So, gentlemen, and everybody out there who's watching now, or those who are listening or watching the replay, what do you think?
Well, to me, just reading this, I mean, to me, version 2 is an improvement. But I mean, I'm talking about, again, I like the first 6. Then I would take some of the choice ones off version 1 after that. like well, this Flying Hour is supposed to be amazing, and Lay His Head, yeah, and yeah, like we said, I'm just repeating myself. I'm not wild about Hong Kong Blues, Save the World, and but for me, writing's on the wall. I could easily take 3 songs from the version 1 and put them on there.
So you would do Flying Hour, Lay His Head, and
yeah, I don't know what sequence. Yeah, I have to think about the sequence.
Yeah, the sequence. Yeah, no.
Yeah, Flying Hour. I'll take all your words for that one.
Yeah,
and Lay His Head, and yes, and Sat
Sat
Singing.
Singing.
I don't know about Tears of the World, but
Mhm.
For me,
Yeah.
and then I have to see what sequence I put it in. But at least the first half of version 2, I think flows better. It's the flow too. I mean, starting off with Hong Kong Blues.
Yeah, I thought
That's insane.
That's strange. Yeah. Yeah, I thought that was a strange.
And Teardrops is not on version 1.
Right.
No,
Right,
that was one of
right.
the ones he added.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. For me, version 2 is the way to go. Obviously, whether or not people think it's obvious or not, but the inclusion of Blood from a Clone and all those years ago, Teardrops, I agree with. Myself, I would have put Flying Hour and Lay His Head on there. I would have ended the album with all those years ago. Myself, I thought would have added some little more oomph to side 2, and adding Flying Hour to the second side as well, and maybe Lay His Head on side 1. But yeah, version 2. If we're just looking at both of these and picking one, for me, version 2 all day.
Okay.
It's really tough comparing the two. I think version 2 flows better.
Right.
But to start off version 1 with Hong Kong Blues and Writings on the Wall is crazy. You did 2 songs that are fairly slow. I'd rather start off the album with Flying Hour and then do Lay His Head and then Unconsciousness Rules. Maybe get a little bit slower then and do Hong Kong Blues and Writings on the Wall, that kind of thing. But certainly Flying Hour deserves to either lead side 1 or side 2 of an album, just like Teardrops works as the first song on side 2. But they're both not perfect track listings. I would certainly, like I said, those 4 songs that were left off, I would keep in there. It evidently was important to George to have Save the World close the album.
Yeah.
Since they were both, they were on both versions and they're both the album closers, to end with a powerful statement, powerful to him, like that. So, they're kind of equal. I like the songs on version 1. I like the song selection on version 1 better, but I like the way that it flows better on version 2. But then if you did have all those years ago, like Tom said, to close the album, that would have really improved it.
I like Baltimore Oriole as a closer. I mean, maybe because I'm used to it that way. At least we did it for side 1 anyway in the finished version. They closed side 1 with it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Definitely. So there's pluses and minuses both ways.
There absolutely. But and interesting when you said that all those years ago should have closed it, because I always thought that it should have the album should have opened with something like All Those Years Ago, or I like Flying Hour. That's actually another great idea.
Well, in the finished album, I like the way it comes in after Life Itself. It feels good coming in there.
Yep. But, this is interesting. You mentioned how obviously it was important for George to end on Save the World. I just pulled out a quote I meant to mention earlier from George. I'm sure you've all read, George did an interview with Timothy White. That's been quoted many times from Billboard. And it was published later as a digital booklet, George Harrison Reconsidered. And so Timothy White mentioned to him, said and this was in about 1987, he did this interview, said one song, Save the World, sampled Crying from Harrison's debut solo album, Wonderwall Music. And so George replies, you spotted that? 3 points for you. The whole Save the World song blows up in the middle, where we all get nuked with babies crying. That latter song is very serious, but at the same time is hysterical. The lyrics have got a lot of funny things about dog food salesmen and making your own H-bomb in the kitchen with your mom.
Right.
Yep. At the end, I just wanted to let the whole song go out with something sad to touch the nerve and maybe make you think, oh, this is a family show. I thought of that instrument I used on Wonderwall Music called, I'm sure I'm going to massacre this, Thar Shentai. I'm not sure if that's, I'm sure I'm massacring it, which means string. Shanghai. It's like a one-string fiddle, bowed instrument with the sympathetic strings resting over stretched skin. It has that hollow, echoey resonance, a wailing, crying sound. So I guess he wasn't being funny. I mean, he wanted it to be dramatic. So I guess maybe that's why he wanted to end the album with that, but didn't quite work, I think. So, all right. So I guess we all agree on we'd like to, if we were to reconfigure it, Hong Kong Blues and Save the World would be the most likely candidates.
Well, you could make, I think we agree you could make a much better album out of it.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh,
I think you can make a really good album with removing a couple and adding a couple of the tracks that were removed. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you know, there's nothing wrong with having 11 or 12 songs on an album.
Yeah.
Right.
You don't have to have 10.
Particularly these days.
There would have been room.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. All right. Let me so yeah, I just thought it'd be interesting to see them side by side like this, to give a comparison, because it's interesting to see how how the original and the finished version stack up. But yeah, I guess you just don't know about record labels sometimes.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because a question about that is, I'm kind of confused by that. If they're just the distributor, if they're not putting any money into the recording of the album itself, if George is putting that, if he's recording it all at Friar Park and not really recording at another studio where Warner Brothers is putting money into it, what do they care if if that album is the way it is? You know what I mean? If they didn't like it, all they're doing is distributing it.
Well, there's costs in distribution too.
Well, yeah.
That's how many copies? If you want the record to sell, you're going to have to make a lot of copies for it to be a big seller. Is it worth it?
Right.
If they don't feel that the product is there. And we've talked a bit about how the music industry was changing, and maybe the solo Beatles weren't changing with the times. Although Paul is still doing well at this point, very well. But I'm sure there was that kind of concern. It's just like we've been saying, there are certain songs here on this album that sound like typical George. Right. If you love that, fine. But a lot of fans probably moved on.
Yep. And probably at this time, so we're talking 80, 81, he was, maybe not feeling he was fitting in with the contemporary, sound.
We said that about Ringo, didn't we?
Right.
We've worked that out. Tom was talking a lot about that too, about the way the contemporary sound was, and does George fit in there? Kind of stuff.
And covering 2 Hoagie Carmichael songs didn't really help.
No, I don't think so.
As great as Hoagie Carmichael is,
right?
So, but you wonder how much did George care about fitting it. Well, Blood from a Clone, he kind of told us how much he cares about fitting in.
But that can be admirable too, like Ken said earlier, you want to put this is my music, this is what I want to say, this is what I want to do, and it's not just always about having a hit necessarily. That's true too. It's like the Fleetwood Mac Tusk album, which confounded a lot of people in a way after rumors.
Absolutely, yep. And of course, after this, he would then put out Gone Troppo, where he really expressed how discontented he'd become with the music business.
Nobody put it out. Nobody knew it was out.
The sad thing is that Gone Troppo has a lot of great material on it. And George, at that point, this was his last album for Warner Brothers. He didn't want to promote it, and that album really bombed.
It sure did.
Unfortunately, and certainly didn't deserve to.
Yep. And then this experience probably helped sour him on,
Oh yeah,
this,
absolutely.
I mean, with, as I said, I mean, having your album rejected at first and being told it's not commercial enough. It's, that's tough. I mean, that's gotta hurt.
Well, it's nice. It's nice in retrospect to know that he got happy again. With Cloud9 and the Wilburys' popularity, at least.
Exactly. Yep, he did. Thank goodness, come back. So to close this out, we usually do this. So we've listened to it again. We've reconsidered these tracks, and we've talked about the sort of legacy of the album and so forth. So where would you rate this today in his catalog? You don't have to give it a number or anything. I hate that. So, like, would you say it's like
Wow.
doing 1 through 10 and all that? So, like, just generally, like upper tier, lower tier, middle. You could do lower middle tier. Something along those lines. It doesn't have to be super exact. So, Ken, what do you think?
It's near the bottom of George's catalog. But then again, like I said, all solo Beatle albums go from good to great. So I would definitely say this album and Extra Texture are the two weakest of George's. From All Things Must Pass On. You can't really put Electronic Sound in that category or Wonderwall music, because that's all, soundtrack music, all instrumental. It's a whole different thing. So From All Things Must Pass through Brainwashed, it's, I have a tough time whether it's weaker than Extra Texture or better, but those are the bottom two, I would say. But then there's so much stuff I love on both those albums, so that's where I'd place it.
So bottom tier,
yep,
for sure. Okay, Tom.
Unfortunately, I have to agree with Ken. When you do these things, something has to be on the bottom. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's good or not. Something has to be, down there. So I would definitely put this in the bottom, 2, 3, as his, worst. I don't know if it's his worst album or least album, however you want to phrase it, but unfortunately it is down there, even though there are, quite a few tracks on here that I really do enjoy.
Okay, fair enough. Joe?
Okay. This is one of the times going last helped, because I was writing shorthand some of the order. For me, originally I was gonna say middle tier, and then I started thinking about it, and I said, no, it's lower tier. Maybe not counting Electronic Sound albums like that.
Right.
Because for me, Gone Troppo and Extra Texture is two least. And maybe somewhere in England I place above those two. I don't know where Dark Horse and Somewhere in England go, but I think maybe I'll put Dark Horse over it, above Somewhere in England. So maybe third from the bottom, But having said that, as I was saying earlier, I really came to really enjoy it when I played it the other day. The first 6 songs. But when you're thinking about albums like George Harrison, self-titled 33 and a third, and everything earlier, Living in the Material World, all those, I mean, can't compare really to those, so
right.
Yeah.
The Queen says you are correct. It is the bottom tier.
I can sleep tonight.
You can sleep tonight. You are correct.
I get to keep my head for another day. All right.
That's right.
Otherwise, she would clonk you with her scepter right on the head.
That's right.
Arise, sirloin of beef.
There'll be no off with his head tonight.
That is correct. Yep.
Yeah.
You can live another day. Yeah, I agree. Bottom tier. Even though as we've talked about, there are some good points. There are a few, more than a few songs that we like. It's inconsistent. Not one of his best efforts. And Warner Brothers, what the hell were you thinking? Flying Hour, give me a break. So, that would have really improved the album. I mean, that's a lost treasure right there.
Where does it
So-
go, Kid? Come on, own up. Dead last, or are there a couple below it?
Not
or?
dead last. I would not say dead last. I would probably rank it where you did, Joe. Above Gone Troppo and Extra Texture. I
you
think
notice
that's,
again,
that's
when I was
about right.
When I was discussing the albums again, I overlooked Brainwashed, which is a
Mhm.
fine album.
Yep.
I always say that album
Definitely.
is overlooked, and I
It is.
overlook it.
It's
I
a
forgot
great
about it.
album. Yep. Absolutely. So yeah, I would agree. So, well, this has been a fascinating discussion. I knew this would be great. I've been looking forward to this, and really terrific discussion out there. You guys have made some great comments. Definitely, as we predicted, controversial album, and we can see that from your comments. Please keep them going. Let us know what you think, or if this may be one of your favorite albums, and if so, terrific. So
Let us have
know.
it. Let us have
Let
it.
us have
Attack us.
You'll say Warner Brothers was absolutely correct in their assessment. So absolutely. But thank you as always for tuning in. We just love doing another listen and all of our shows, and we couldn't do it without you. So before we get to our different projects that we're working on, let me just let you know how to get a hold of us. You can, of course, reach us on our Facebook page. And you can also reach us on Twitter at talkmoretalk1, the number 1. You can also email us at talkmoresolotalk@gmail.com. Please let us know your feedback. If there are any ideas you have for future topics, you may just see one of your ideas show up on this show. You can also find us, obviously, on this channel. Please subscribe. Please smash that subscribe button, as they say. Smash that
Hit
like
that
button
bell.
too.
Hit that bell so you get notified when all the latest episodes come out.
You bet. Absolutely. And please tell your friends. Our subscriber number is growing, and we really appreciate you helping to spread the word and all of your support. You can also find us, if you prefer to listening to the audio version, on virtually any podcasting platform you can think of. And I think that's and our website, talkmoretalk.com. And as always, big shout out to Beetle Ed for running our show on Fab 4 Radio and many of our individual shows. Thank you. You can find our show on his site as well. So I think that's everything there. So Tom, what are you working on?
What are we working on? It's always something. Well, again, please check us out on our YouTube channel, Two Legs, a Paul McCartney podcast. We're nearing that 1,000 subscriber goal. So thank you, everybody that's watching us there, and also on all of our audio platforms as well. We just did an episode last week about collecting flowers in the dirt, all the many different versions of the album, and then all the different versions of the CD singles, the cassette singles, the 12-inch singles. There's just so much around the flowers in the dirt era with collectabilities on that one. So check that out. We also were live over the weekend, and we had our good friend Ted Montgomery back on, and we talked about the second edition of his book of The Beatles Through Headphones. This is a book about the journey, or not really the journey, but his thoughts on listening to the Beatles through headphones. I think we both agree that it's, for us, it's our favorite way to listen to the Beatles. And he talks about equipment and certain points in time during the songs when he feels like listening to the Beatles through headphones is at the absolute best time to listen to it. So check that out. And then this coming Saturday, we've had the great Chip Manninger and Mark Easter, as everybody knows, is the author of this wonderful book, 8 Arms to Hold You. They came back on to do an episode, and this was a great idea from Chip, because on my co-host Andy, he just saw Elton John live a couple times the past couple weeks, and he said, hey, how about doing a show about Elton John and the connections with the solo Beatles, which would have been a great idea here too.
Cool, yeah.
But they came on and we did that show, and then that's going to be posted this Saturday, a day after Elton John's birthday. So
perfect.
Look out for that.
Very nice.
All right.
All great stuff to look forward to. Joe, how about you? What are you up to?
Well, earlier, I think Ken mentioned Leo Sayer having a new album out, and called something like Leo Sayer
Northern songs.
Sings Northern songs. Leo Sayer sings the Beatles. Oh, he's going to show it
Yeah,
now on
Leo.
top of it.
Yeah,
Uh-oh.
Leo Sayer sings the Beatles.
You don't know what's
Yep.
following. I like Leo Sayer's, When I Need You and You Make Me Feel Like Dancing and More Than I Can Say. But the reason when you were talking about it, Ken, you'll see it on the playback. Kit and I were going like, kind of looking around and stuff because I had done a reaction video, and it's short. It's on my channel, me and Mr. Mayo on YouTube, and that was at the record store, my local record store where I hang out and make some reality type videos with the characters over there, and someone had a copy of it and played it, and I just gave some reaction. That's all I'm saying, and I think it's pretty
It's a
amusing.
reaction.
Okay.
So that's that video that's up there if you want to see why we were going like, kind of thing. And then I went to a record show, and there were two women there, older women, that was selling interesting Beatles memorabilia. I put it in the video. It's right now. It's one of my newest videos. It's about the record show, and one of the women went to Shea Stadium when she was like 12 years old. So I got into a little bit of a discussion with her about going to Shea. So that's in my video about the record store, a record show. We got the record store reaction, and then we got the record show where I'm talking about Beatles memorabilia, Beatles blowout, I think I called it, something like that.
Yeah.
So we can check those out. I'll leave it to Kit maybe to talk about a blast off, maybe if you want.
Yes. Yep.
Oh,
I will.
congratulations to getting to 12,000 subs too.
Oh wow!
Oh, yeah,
Congratulations.
Very nice.
Thanks. Yeah, appreciate that.
Wow.
Thank you.
That's-
Subscribe, please subscribe. Be Mr. Mayo.
Smash
Make it
that.
13,000.
Smash that button.
In time for my 10th anniversary.
Wow,
May.
10th anniversary.
Well, I know what it took to get Joe to be up there to 12,000 subscribers. There's this new video that he put up, and I never knew the singing ability of Joe before. But you have to hear him sing "Dance Tonight" from Paul McCartney. And one person wrote in on the YouTube channel, and words were perfect. That he had no idea the song was all one chord, for one thing. And you're playing it. Was that a ukulele?
Mandolin? I don't know what it was. I was at the store one day and it came in, and I said, that's right away I thought of that. And I said, let me do it, but it's a joke, obviously. As you can know, I can't sing for anything. I've since put that on temporary hiatus, that video.
Oh,
But it's not going to be gone forever. It's going to come.
Oh, good.
It's going to come back because it was funny. Let's face it.
oh, it was
You
awesome.
can do that, and you can do like a collage or whatever, and make a video with that, and check my machine.
Yeah, check my
as well.
machine. That was
Yeah,
awesome.
Yeah, the Check My Machine one. I really that one is
That
still.
was
The
good.
vocal stylings of Joe Mayo. Here we go.
Yeah.
Hopefully, it got a couple of hardy hars. People were laughing. I was desperate because I know Gary Wilbur is out there, and I wasn't able to come up with any honeymooners. I was thinking near the end of the show. So hardy har. There you go. There's one.
Very good, sir.
All
Okay.
right, Ken, you're always up to a lot of great stuff. So what's going on with you?
Okay. Well, on my other podcast show, Things We Said Today, we just did a show a few days ago on the brand new Rock and Roll Hall of Fame exhibit on the Beatles called The Beatles Get Back to Let It Be. And we interviewed Waka Onwusa, who is the vice president and chief curator of the exhibit, and Greg Harris, who's the president and CEO of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And you actually get to see with Waka, on screen, some of what's there and learn all about it. And perfect timing with, Get Back Everyone's got that on their mind since it came out. And yeah, it's a really good show. We interviewed the two of them. So everything you need to know about that at the Hall of Fame. And also on my, what?
Can I just interrupt for 1 second? Not only are you celebrating your 40th anniversary in radio, but aren't you guys celebrating your 10th anniversary this year for Things We Said Today? Didn't it start in 2012?
That is true. I just have to look up the exact date.
Right.
I'm glad you reminded me of that.
Yeah.
I got to go look in my hard drive.
Right.
I'll know when the first show went out then.
Right.
That way. Yeah, that was when it was just Steve Marinucci and me.
Right.
Yeah.
My gosh, that's amazing.
Go back and listen to that old episode of Ken and Steve going back and forth about the Magical Mystery Tour.
I remember that. I listened to that. I remember where I was when I heard that.
I didn't know that was so newsworthy in the Beatle world. Us arguing about it, but yeah.
Anyway, I want to say I'm reading comments here, and Lone Pilgrim 83 just gave me an idea, and Tom will appreciate this. He's waiting for my official cover of "Can't Stop Thinking About You," the George Harrison song. Now,
there you go. Yes,
I
there
think
you
I
go.
can tackle that. So
there you go.
That'll be fun.
Oh, I got a list of songs that are not Beatles or solo Beatles that I'd like Joe to do.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well,
number one would be "Take on Me." I think you'd be natural with that.
What, Take on Me? Uh-huh.
Aha. Anyway, so on my YouTube channel, Ken Michaels Radio, we had royalty on, as Kid O'Toole was my special guest in my most recent show. We did a show on the most underrated Beatles and solo Beatle albums. So Kit picked one Beatles, one from each solo Beatle, and explained why she felt those were underrated. That's my most recent show. There's going to be some new ones coming out this week. If you can, please subscribe. I'm somewhere around 840 subscribers. Let's get it up there to 1,000. Thanks to all the new ones. And again, that's Ken Michaels Radio. And subscribe to Things We Said Today as well.
Yep.
And my website, kenmichaelsradio.com. Beatles trivia, which will be posted right after this show. There's a Beatle game called The Word. And play along with it. You can win one of 10 prizes, books, CDs, or DVDs.
Last week's question was tough. Think for yourself one.
Do you know the answer?
No, I still don't know the answer.
Wow.
I'm going to post it right after we end this.
Yeah. What a question, though. What do those four songs have in common? Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, it's not what you got to think outside the box for that one.
Okay.
You mentioned
really
The Word. And that makes me have to talk to Miss O'Toole after this about seeing Wordle every day in my feed on Facebook, not just from kids, but from another few people that I know. And I'm like, what? I actually made one of my famous Rancid Mayo videos about Wordle.
Did you really?
I just said, I'm not going to put up. But, tongue in cheek, with I put some love in there too.
It's an addictive
because
thing.
that's the newest craze, but or maybe it's an old craze. It's just popular now.
Yeah.
I don't know. But
yep. It's fun.
Once I see how it's played. Yeah, I saw how it was played. Some people were playing it. And I said, once you see how it's played, it's interesting.
Yep.
But just seeing the empty green box, yellow boxes, man.
I'm a sucker for word games, I really am. I love it.
Did you play Sudoku too?
No, numbers. No,
that was numbers. Okay.
I don't do numbers.
I bet you're the queen of the crossword puzzles too, right?
Yes, I am. Yep, crossword puzzles. I'm down with that.
Queen of the hidden word search.
That's right. Oh my God. All right. Well, for me, just a couple of quick things. First off, I have a review up at Something Else Reviews of the Beatles and India. Terrific new documentary. We've talked about it a little bit on this show since Ken interviewed the director on his channel. And so I wrote a review. So you can go check it out, as I mentioned, on somethingelse-reviews.com. The show that Plastic EP and I are hosting, Greatest Shows of the 60s. We did a really fun show last week about Lost in Space, and we had a very special guest, Joe Mayo, where he joined us to talk about the show. We had such a fun time. I really did, because he is a Lost in Space super fan. So we've really, he shared some great stories, had some photos of pictures he had taken with some of the cast members. I mean, it was great. So hopefully we will. So that's on Plastic EP's Facebook page. You can check it out there. And hopefully these episodes will be up on YouTube soon. I think he's going to upload them on his channel this Friday. At 6 p.m. Eastern, also on his Facebook page. Hopefully, if all goes well, we are going to do our next episode, which Joe will join us again. I hope if all goes according to schedule.
Looking good, right? It's looking good right now.
Excellent. We are going to talk about.
It's looking good.
We are going to talk about the Munsters. So, yep. And I remember talking about, I think Joe's going to go find something. We are going to talk about the Munsters, which I think Joe is also a super fan of. So join us live and you can talk about not a Munsters thing. Okay.
It's looking good. It's looking good.
Okay.
It's looking good. Just pick this up at the in the little preview to that memorabilia show I was talking about.
Oh, gotcha.
Carry on.
All right. So join us 6 p.m. This Friday. Let me look at the exact date, the 25th, on Plastic EP, the Plastic EP's page on Facebook, and share your memories of this incredibly fun show with us. So that's about it. So thank you again for joining us. It's always a fun time. And as I mentioned, we couldn't do this show without you. Hope to see you at the New Jersey Fest, April 1st through the 4th. Hope to see you at our panel or hope to see you around that weekend. Come look for us. So for Joe Mayo, Ken Michaels, Tom Hunyadi, this is Kid O'Toole saying, we've got to save the world. Someone else may want to use it. Peace out, everybody.